Hey everybody, it's Super Bowl weekend. It's Les Sulgrove with Simply Des Moines Market Values, and this is going to be a fun weekend here. Sunday afternoon, a little bit later on, we're going to be rooting on the Philadelphia Eagles to win the Super Bowl. So, there's just no way I can root for anybody else but the Philadelphia Eagles. So, hey, let's just start the show so we can get ready for some Super Bowl parties. Hey there, it's Les Sulgrove with Simply Des Moines. And, if you kind of thought my message was mixed today at the top of the show, just stay tuned because we're going to have some other mixed messages as we go through today's deep dive of the real estate cycle. I talked about it last week in the year-end show, but I really broke it down and kind of I'm going to show you guys on kind of how this market really kind of came to play. But first, let's talk about the weekly dashboard. It's week 6. There's just a couple of things I want to point out right here. We've been steadily building our inventory about 3 weeks ahead, then a drop down, a week ahead, a drop down, and that's kind of the same pattern we're seeing this week here. But I would sure like to see our inventory continue to grow. Our sale pendings are on the rise, but right now we're still down in inventory, about 3,433 homes for sale. And we had a good closing week last week because a lot of the sales came in for the month of February that were not on because the end of the month was right at the last day there. So we're going to hit close here, maybe this week, to hitting our 1,000 closed sale milestone here. It may not be week 7, but if it's not, you know what? We won't be too far behind the following week. We'll probably do it in the next week after that. We also did see a very, very, very slight drop of mortgage interest rates this week down to 6.89%. So do me a favor. You can see we got 2 subscribers last week. Please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. I'd like to get this up to 1,000 subscribers if you can help me do that. And so just pause your video or go to one of the graphics and use this QR code. You can go right to the YouTube channel and it'll let you subscribe right from there. So anyway, well, let's get started here. The in-depth conversation this week is about the cycle of real estate. And, we've talked about this many, many times in the past, but we kind of talk about it in a 10-year cycle is the typical period. And I've really never, ever gone as deep into this as I'm going to go this week. And I think it'll kind of help explain some of the different parts to the cycle. So if you all recall, the cycle is made up of 4 different quadrants. We got the expansion period, we've got the peak of a market, we've got a slowdown in the market, and then we have the recovery. And you can see here, right above my head here, that you can kind of see from 2010 or 2000 to 2010, we were kind of in that typical 10-year cycle. I say typical because, we're really not in a typical period right now. And I think some of that has to do with COVID, which we'll talk about. But let's jump in here and talk about the 4 categories again. So we have expansion period. We're going to talk about first here. This is we're going to go basically from 2010 forward, and we'll kind of see what the market's done. So here's that 10-year cycle starting in 2010 here, and you can see that we've been through a period of expansion. And question whether it's been 2015 or not, but as the expansion period. But we'll kind of see here. The 4 categories, again, under expansion now are rising inventory levels, buyer demand on the rise, home prices rising, and time on the market also dropping. So let's see if any of these 4 indicators tell us if we're in an expansion period. Well, you can see right away that our rising inventory levels is not part of this expansion, but that is okay because it doesn't mean we have to have all of these 4 market indicators in the cycle period. But we did see home prices rising during this 2010 to 2015 period. Not very, very steadily, but they did kind of go up. But our rising inventory levels is not in there. We did see buyer demand on the rise, though. You can see here, this is the sale pending chart, and the dotted line, if I didn't explain it, the first slide is, this is the trend that we see. Now, just because we see a trend doesn't mean that it's, like if we see an upward trend, you can also see as we get here to the end of 2015, where maybe this is starting to peak. But from the period of 2010 to 2015, the overall trend was a rise. We also saw time on market dropping. So as we got closer to 2015, days on market started to come down just a little bit. And we'll see in a minute here where they really, really dropped when we were in those low mortgage interest rates. As far as the peak of the market here, you can see the next category has four subcategories of or submarkers here of home inventory leveling off, buyer demand at the highest, home prices kind of hitting their maximum, and time on the market being the shortest period of time. So let's kind of see what we've got in that period. So from 2015 to 2019, or actually it's going to say through 2020, so it's going to go through the year of 2019. We're going to see these four subcategories. So let's jump in and see kind of what has happened. Home inventory leveling off. Again, the home inventory is going to be the one that's kind of giving us the mixed messages in this whole exercise here. From 2016 through 2019 to the early 2020, we started to see inventory start to rise. In fact, there was no year where it leveled off. So this one we did not hit, and again in the subset markers. However, we did see buyer demand at the highest in this period of time here. So it was really from 2016 to 2017 was pretty much the highest period, and then it was starting to come down. So um, keep in mind, we were predicting, or I was predicting that we were going to peak around 2019, 2020, and all indicators here are saying that was going to happen. You can even see the trend line is down there for pending sales. Home sale pricing, we did hit our maximum price. It was right around 2018, and then you can see that we were starting back down. Just the fact that, again, here's an example of that trend line where it's going up. But it's because it started out so low in 2016 and we had several months of activity. But in all reality, we did hit our maximum price here in 2018. So that's a good sign and a good indicator in this small window of that 5 years there that shows that we were at peak. And then days on the market really started to come down. And, we were seeing, you saw this great drop here. And I've explained this before why we saw a great drop. And this was because I was using average days on market up until this point instead of median days on market. So 2018, we switched over to median days, but the trending is pretty much the same. So if this was not this large drop, it would have been down here and probably would have shown our peak. But either way, we've shown our peak in the days on market. So obviously what happened in 2020, we saw COVID hit us March of 2020 through May of 2023. And boy, were there all kinds of things that we had to deal with, from addendums on our purchase agreements. There were lockdowns, masks were required, education, learning about COVID-19. And then, of course, we covered pricing pretty heavily in here to see what pricing was going to do. This was actually a good post. I might link to this back in the show if I remember to do that, and it'll show what we were predicting in that video back in really somewhere around 2020, early 2021. We were trying to figure out if pricing was going to go up, and but it's been kind of a conversation all along the way. So and as I mentioned, we thought we were going to see this peak around 2019, and all indicators were that we would see that. However, with COVID-19, we ended up seeing this expansion period. So we were going from recovery, expansion, peak, which should have then been a slowdown, but instead we had our second expansion. So we're going to see these again, rising prices and inventory. We basically saw our peak come into play somewhere around 2022, 2023. And so let's kind of see where that shows here. So this is showing through 2022. Homes for sale from 2020 when COVID started to that basically through 2022, we did see our inventory level off. Now, a lot of this leveling off was this huge drop of inventory, and this is from the buyer demand and the COVID activity. But regardless, we did see a pretty good leveling off of inventory, especially right here around the end. And then we actually, we got down just a little bit lower as we moved forward. But for this period of time, it kind of showed us we were in a leveling off period. We also saw our highest buyer demand. This shows you that 4,600 homes under contract there during the middle of COVID-19, and that was in 2021. and where we hit 4,600 plus homes under contract. So we did obviously, we're never going to probably hit that again until our market totally switches around. And even then, I don't think it'll be this sudden jolt up. It'll be a slow rise. I think someday we will. This will be our norm. But right now, that's a pretty high mark to beat here. Maximum pricing here again. You can see in this time period from 2016 to 2020. We really saw that our maximum pricing hit right around 2018, just prior to COVID hitting. And that's been a pretty good indicator. So now we're going back into this 2020 to 2022. The time on the market started to really slow down. So right about here was COVID, and you can just see that immediately our days on market started to drop. In fact, 2021 was predominantly, except for the early part of the year, around 8 or 9 days on market or a week on the market there. So we were at the peak of that. The slowdown section now of the marketplace kind of started to come into play. And the four key markers for that are home inventory decreasing, buyer home selection is an advantage for home buyers. Basically, they have more homes to choose from since the market's slowing down. May not have been as the number of homes, but they weren't competing against as many home buyers. Price reductions were common. Boy, that's the truth. And time on market increasing as well. So let's kind of see here when we look at that here in what we would call the slowdown period, which was 2023, at least 2023, maybe a little bit of 2024 as well here. Actually, this is including 2024. Let's kind of see what's happening. So home inventory decreasing. Yes, again, this is the category that is not playing by the rules. But you can see that we've continued to see this home inventory rise, although we're starting to see it tail off just a little bit. Maybe not as advanced here as we move into 2025. You can see that we typically see a pretty good drop, and we're not seeing it drop quite as much here in 2025. We do have good buyer home selection. Again, with the inventory not dropping as much as it typically would, and the slower pace, we're seeing buyers have a little bit more of an advantage here, at least at the first part of the year. We've seen nothing but price reductions the last 2 or 3 years as well, and our time on market does increase. We're used to that because we're no longer in that 2021, 2022 fast sell pace market, and I think that's probably it's good for home buyers. It's good for home sellers. It's not going crazy back up into 90 days on market like it was in 1990 when I got in the business, but the time on market is increasing a bit. So get my head just out of the way here. Recovery period, which I think we're basically have been in now, is where we have the lowest inventory. Buyer demand is at the lowest. Home prices are most affordable, and time on market is kind of the longest period. So let's kind of see how that plays into play here. So from 2023 down to 2024, I believe we've slid from the slowdown into recovery. So let's see what that looks like here. So now we're going again from 2022 all the way up to 2025, and you can kind of see again the homes for sale. That same graphic I showed you before, it's just kind of slowing down just a little bit, and some of these graphics overlay, and you got to look at them in series. But I think that our inventory levels are going to start to build here in 2025. We are basically at the lowest buyer demand that we've seen in quite some time, and this is evident by looking at the pending sales, and we've seen that 23 was a much slower year than 2022. 24 was still slow, but we had a little bit of mortgage interest rates here that kind of jumped in and boosted the market, which kept us from dropping into such a deep dive. We didn't quite peak last year, what we did the year before, but we also didn't hit the very, very low that we saw at the end of 2023. So that gives us the idea that buyer demand is recovering. But still pretty low. We have home prices. I would say they're most affordable, but they're really not, because with the higher mortgage rates, it's making it harder for home buyers to afford the high-end pricing that we're seeing. But however, what you can see here is instead of seeing an increase year over year of pricing, we're actually seeing the median list price kind of drop a little bit. It's not dropping much, but at least it's not on the increase. And so where they still may not be affordable, at least we're heading in the right direction. The median sale price, as you can see, kind of levels out around 350 at the end of the year. And we didn't see it drop, but we did see that it didn't peak as high as 375 last year. So that's a good indicator. And then of course our days on market, we've seen that steadily rise here. We see these spikes at the first of the year, but then this rise from spring market through summer markets is coming right along here. So the question I have for you all is, where are we at now? Are we in a recovery and expansion mode in 2025, or are we still trying to recover? That's the real question. It's yet to be seen as we move into the year, but I can tell you that we're seeing all good signs where inventory levels are probably going to start to increase a little bit. I think that a sale pending with the buyer demand that's out there is going to help us out. The best thing that would happen in 2025 is that mortgage interest rates would come down about a half to 3/4% and just kind of sit there. The stabilization of mortgage interest rates, especially if we get close to that 6% number, which we're almost a full percent away from, but if we get closer to that 6% number, I think that home buyers and homeowners that are sitting on the sidelines are just ready to jump. And I've said it before, some magic things kind of happen as we move into that lower interest rate. But anyway, that's the in-depth reporting of the real estate cycle. I, would love to have conversations about this. We'll talk about this probably as the weeks go on. But in the meantime, let's all get ready for a great Super Bowl. Kansas City Chiefs or Philadelphia Eagles. I could go either way for both teams. We'd like to see Cooper DeJean get his first Super Bowl ring on the Eagles in his first year, but we also would like to see the Kansas City Chiefs make it a three-peat. So I'm okay with whoever wins. So with that, we'll see you all again next week. Take care and be safe out there. The weather's going to be cold, so bundle up. See you next week.